Morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on wherever you are. But wherever you are, if you're watching this, you have some keen inkling to know what's happening in the world of Australian Ultimate. I'm Stef Pazzo. We're closing off our week of interviews, our hype, our pre-game, pre-tournament chat before the Australian Ultimate Championships, which are happening this weekend, April 10th till 12th in Canberra, the Australian capital territory. And I am pleased to be joined with a young lady. She says she's not young anymore, but a young lady, Kat Smith, that I've had the pleasure of knowing just about the beginning of her playing days in Brisbane. And she's come a very long way since then. Welcome, Kat Smith. How are you today?
Hey, Steph. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, very, very good. Very excited to see your smiling face. It
Oh,
definitely brings a smile to mine as well. So very happy on that alone, but everything else is going pretty good too.
cool.
And you, how is life in Brisbane? You're there now, as I understand, after a
Yeah,
bit of moving.
I have, yeah. I grew up in Brisbane, obviously, and Brisbane's one of the cities on the east coast of Australia. So it's a pretty fun place to grow up as a kid. I grew up here, and then I did a bit of traveling. Went up north to Townsville, played a bit more frisbee, and then I came back to Brisbane. And Brisbane's mostly been pretty wet for the last week. It's been just pouring down rain, and with a new COVID lockdown, with the rain over Easter, it's just I've seen a lot of my house, and I've bought a lot of plants because what else do you
Yeah,
do?
I mean that's what you do: buy plants, do cooking, or these odd projects that everybody gets to start amidst all of this. Uh,
Mhm.
so, Kat, let's introduce yourself to our viewers. So, you are Kat Smith. Do you have nicknames that you go by in the Alti world?
To be honest, Cat Smith probably is the nickname. I don't really, yeah, I'm not exciting enough to have another one. I'm sorry.
Uh, well, I called you Kitty Cat for a small time, but we can't let that be an official nickname. I know that much, but I did always like calling you that when you started. So we'll skip straight along your city and your club. You told us about the city. You live in Brisbane. What's the club that you would be representing?
Yeah, so I play for a women's team called Fuse, and I've played for them for probably about the last 5 or 6 years, which has been really nice to see the club evolve over that time. Even though for 2 of those years I was playing from Townsville, but still like traveling to go to trainings and then to nationals as well.
Remote
But I think,
Queensland player. Townsville, of course, still being in the same state in Australia.
yeah, that's correct.
Uh,
Yeah.
Awesome. And I know that that club has developed. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I've heard good things about the development. What number do you wear on your back, Cat?
64.
And any reason, totally random?
Yeah,
Why?
no. Um, Yeah, there's definitely a reason. I had a friend from Switzerland who came out to Australia for about 6 months, and we were both playing frisbee, and we both kind of needed a number. And it just so happens that the Australian code is 614, and Switzerland's is like 6042. So we were like, oh, let's join them together. So 64 was the
Do I remember this player, this Swiss player? Was he on one of my halibut teams with you as well?
she
Oh,
might have
oh,
been.
she. Okay, that's not he. It's not Oliver Gogler.
No, it's not Ollie.
He was a Swiss player that I know through you as well. So okay, so it's somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yes, her name was Nina. Do you remember her? Nina
Nina.
Berger.
Yes, I do
Vaguely?
remember vaguely, 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 but I do remember Nina. Yes, I do remember the
Yeah.
name. Cool. Okay, so that's how you became Cat Smith, number 64. How many years you been playing Cat?
Like a while now. It creeps up on you sometimes, I think. I started in 2012, so gosh, 9 years now.
9 years. Holy
I know,
whatever
crazy.
expletive. That's you still seem like a fresh young player to me, but almost a decade already.
Uh,
And how old are you? Tell me you're still under 30. You must be under
I
30.
am still under 30. I turned 27 in 3 weeks, actually. So if you
Okay.
want to send a birthday present my way, feel free.
Yes, that me and the rest of these viewers send Cat Smith presents, love, and praise for her birthday. And then talk about Aussie representation. You've had the pleasure of doing it on more than one occasion. tell us about the campaigns that you've got to wear the green and gold, or maybe even clubs, whatever
Sure.
it is. Tell us about some of your big campaigns.
Yeah, sorry. I guess like when I first started, I managed to pick up on this mixed clubs team. It was called Hippo back in 2014 when I barely really, to be honest, didn't really know how to play. But we went over to.
We've lost her for a second here. Maybe internet connection on the other side. Let's see if we get her back soon. In the interim, I will give my best renditions. I know that she played Hippo, and that would have been in Lecco. After Lecco, we had Kat, sorry, who the other day I introduced Kat Phillips as Kat Smith, which was a major gaffe. Anyways, Kat Smith was also a member of the Mondays in London that won a silver medal. She was a Firetail, which is the women's representation in Australia. And as well, she was a Stingray, an under 24 Australian representative. And I know she played AOUCC, which Mark Evans was just talking about. The men's rendition of that was the Blue Healers. I'm not sure what the women's is. We do, while we're waiting, we may switch over to who would be our next guest. And he's in our waiting room, so we may bring him in right now. So we are going to do that. We'll bring him in, and if Kat comes back, we might bounce our guests in and out. But I do have with me in the waiting room here a man who is very renowned over the WWF, the World Wrestling Federation. I will read his resume here, his ultimate resume, before we pull his face on, because it's quite impressive. Chair of the WFDF Spirit of the Game Task Force, introduced for the WFDF Game Advisors. He's been a player at WCC 06, 2010, World Masters Ultimate Club Championships 2014, 2018, coaching staff for Australia, the World Games 09, WGC 08 and 2012, WFDF Rules Official Game Advisor, the World Games 2013, 2017, WGC 2016, WCC 2018, W Under 24 2018, founder of the Indigenous Ultimate Association, also involved in the Australian Ultimate League and the After Cultural Diversity Showcase game, more than just a mouthful. Rules guru Ruben Berg. Let's bring him in and say hello before we get Kat Smith back. How are you, Ruben?
I'm doing really good. How are you, Steph?
Yeah, really, really good. Great to see your face on the other side of that screen. Now, we do have a little bit of a rules chat lined up with Ruben. We're going to talk to Rubes about the evolution of the rules and specifically a few of the biggest changes that will affect play here at AUC. Ruben, do you mind being a face on screen while we have a chat with Kat, and then we'll kind of bounce a few of our questions in both directions? How does that work for you?
I'm more than happy to do whatever works best for you.
Okay, well, that works best for you. We're going to bring Kat back in. I see she is now in the waiting room. We'll have three beautiful faces on this screen. Kat, Ruben obviously know each other, so welcome to both of you. Thanks for cooperating and playing along here as we go. And we're going to go back to Kat after I gave Ruben's big introduction there. We'll talk a bit more about it. But Kat, you were about to tell us about some of your campaigns. You went on about Hippo, and tell us what happened after your Hippo campaign, because I think we got most of that before we lost you.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. I think the Wi-Fi at my house dropped out, so my mistake.
It happens.
But yeah, I think after Lecco and the really fun mixed championship, everything just went from there. I got onto a couple of under 24 Australian teams, the Stingrays women's teams, which just really reinforced how much I love women's ultimate and seeing players develop with women. And then I got picked on the Opens team for the Firetails in Shanghai in 2019. So that was probably the biggest highlights for me.
So you were the Firetails in Shanghai, and that was an AOUCC.
Yes.
So different than the men not being the dingoes at the AOUCC, they became the Blue Healers. as
I
I
believe
am.
so. Yes.
Okay. Just seeing how all these Australian native animal names balance out with. It's almost like there's one necessary for every new tournament now. So interesting with that one. And then so and any you won a medal as a Barramundi. Have you won any
Yes.
other international medals?
We won bronze with stingrays
Yeah.
in 20 no the odd year ago.
What city was it in?
Perth.
Okay, in Perth. Okay, yes.
27. I can't remember.
2017. I was gone. I was in Nicaragua. I think it must have been 2017. Ruben?
It was January 2018 was under 24s.
2018.
Boom. Look, we got the answers all right here if we need them. That's so good.
I was thinking 18 was like Cincinnati, so I was like, that can't be right. But then it was beginning
Start of the year. Start of the year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so sticking with Kat, we got Ruben still looking beautiful for us. But Kat, tell us about this season. You are part of the Queensland crew. You play in a Queensland club team. The AFTA has recently made the decision that because of government regulations, because of case counting or whatever system they're using, that the Queenslanders should stay home. Tell us about how that season went, leading up with anticipation and kind of the vibe and feeling for the team now that you got to be spectators from the other side of a screen.
Yes. Well, I think at the start of the season, I think a lot of us were expecting that probably Nationals probably wouldn't happen just with the uncertainty. And I think everyone started to, probably be a bit 50-50, but we decided to use it as like a development opportunity. So we actually trained relatively quite hard for, I believe, what we had done in the past. We trained 2 times a week and then had training camps on and off. So, and I think the hardest part was that we got so close. Like it was only last week when the decision was made. I think I definitely had, I booked my flights, accommodation was good, I'd got work off. I thought I was going to Nationals, and then to almost overnight have these brand new COVID cases. And it was quite ironic because I actually work at the hospital where the COVID cases were, and 2 of my housemates work at the hospital as well. So we were all in quarantine, and then you just see Nationals slowly slipping away and then confirmed with the AFTA decision. I do, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. We're going to have a pseudo Queensland Nationals this weekend with
Nice.
a lot of disc golf and a beach trip. So I think we'll try and make the best out of it as we can. But yeah, it was a bit of a shock getting so close. I think that was the big thing. And then
it's got to be tough. I mean, all these decisions, the whole world around right now is probably envious to some end that Australia gets to have a national championship at this point in time. It must have been great excitement for Aussie players, Aussie clubs, and then but as such, having it kind of yanked away at the last minute has got to hurt. Whether you understand, whether you believe, whether you oppose, no matter what, it's preparation, club preparation, team preparation being yanked away it's an emotional strain for many. Rubes, I'm going to flip over to you. What's your thoughts about the way this Nationals is going about and handling this, and the reason or justification for omitting the Queensland teams, but still going ahead with it? What's your take on it? How do you feel about it? Did you have any involvement in it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always really tricky, these things, and I didn't have any involvement in it, but having been involved in having to make, similar higher level decisions before, I know that there's always lots of information that people who are there having to make the decision they have a lot of information that everybody else doesn't necessarily have. And so to me, it's often about just having to trust the people there in the room that they had the information and they've had to make the best decision they could. And it's not an easy decision, and no one would have wanted to make this decision, but you just have to trust that those people who had the information made the best decision they could based on the information they actually had.
Yeah, fair enough. With everything at stake, liability beyond anything else. I mean, I guess that's the last thing anybody wants is for a tournament to be the culprit any further spread, outbreak, whatever it may be. So again, we got to, like you say, respect all these decisions. I'm going to keep both of you now and just kind of bounce questions back and forth because I like the way this works, and you both look so lovely on the screen.
And we're all Queensland. We've all got Queensland connections here too. So
we do all have. I met both of you
Queenslander
in Brisbane originally. I think potentially both at Annerley or in the vicinity. Obviously, Ruben a lot earlier than Kat. I met Ruben right when I moved to Australia, so back in 2007, I guess, before you ended up shipping off to Melbourne. When did you ship off to Melbourne now?
Well, back to Melbourne. I came back to Melbourne in 2007.
Okay, so you were Victorian. You're Melbourneite.
I'm Victorian, Victorian, proud Victorian. But from a frisbee standpoint, I'm a Queenslander because I started playing up in Brisbane in 2001.
Okay, but yes, Queenslander, as the state of origin cries once went. I don't think I've got the right accent for it. I'll pull it off a bit better than that later in the show, though, perhaps. For now, Kat. So about your team, you talked about how it affects. Tell us about some of the players that maybe it has a harsher effect on. Is there any young players that haven't had chances to prove themselves? Are there any old players that maybe this was their last chance to have one more bash at it, or is it kind of just a mutual team-wide disappointment and it affects everybody kind of the same?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was definitely a lot of mutual team disappointment, but I think there were a couple of individuals who were really keen to go. Like we had one girl, especially Loz, it would have been her first nationals, and she's only been playing maybe a year or two and just has incredibly athletic, just had this skyrocket of improvement of ultimate, and she put so much work in to get there. And I think when you first start playing frisbee, you see people get really good really quick, and then you plateau for the rest of your life mostly. But she was in that really exciting phase, and I think that's one of the things that I was quite sad about, to not let her experience how much fun nationals is and seeing everyone and building those interstate connections as well.
I'm two things about that. One, for any of you non-Aussies, laws must mean Laura.
Sorry,
but it's okay. Just clarifying the bizarre Aussie lingo that is. And secondly, were you referring to a player like yourself that started off really hot and then plateaued? Because I don't think you've plateaued yet, Kat Smith, but you definitely started off playing really hot.
Keeps me up at night. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, reset your trajectory, because as far as I'm concerned, you're still moving on up. Rubes, let's bounce back to you before we get into predictions. As the mouthful introduction I gave, you know more about rules than anyone that I could imagine, and I guess you should, based on that resume. There have been rule changes this year. Which ones are going to stand out, and do the players need to kind of remind themselves about the most that could have an impact on a different way of play because of the regulations?
Sure. Well, all the players will have done their advanced rules accreditation, so they'll all be up on board with many of the changes there. But there are some, fairly significant changes. Not too many, but one of the key ones is around travel, that we've changed pretty much kind of the give-go play. We've adjusted to match the way the US have always played it, which is that you've got those 2 steps, 2 ground contacts after you've caught the disc to be able to maintain your speed and throw it within those 2 steps without having to stop, without having to slow down. So it enables more of those quick give-go passes, which we've seen more and more across the world. And, it was just one of those things that the US had a different rule about that. And everyone watches the US to see, the trends of how you're going to play. That's who many of the clubs try and emulate. And so it was a bit weird thinking that, you could watch them do something that was then you couldn't do in our competitions because it was against our rules. So we changed that one to match the US there. And I think most players I've seen are kind of across that now. I think at the start of the year, there are a few people calling travels like, oh, that's a travel.
Not anymore.
No, the rules changed. It's not a travel anymore. Hopefully it doesn't go too far that people now think they can just run around willy-nilly.
Right.
But you just need to give that allowance to say, well, they don't have to be slowing down anymore.
Oh God!
Do we need to translate willy-nilly?
And so the two steps before, now correct me if I'm wrong here. Before, there used to be some iteration in that rule that it was like without changing speed or direction in those steps. So that is kind of been removed as well.
No, that's still there. It's still got it. So if you're going in a straight line, the speed is what you don't have to worry about. You have to keep the same direction, but you can maintain your speed. You can't increase. You can't go from stationary to moving forward.
Okay.
But if you're going at a sprint, you can stay at a sprint, catch it 2 steps, be in the air, and release it, and then keep going.
All right, giving a bit of motion offense, kind of facilitating there.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we'll probably see some more of that over the over the weekend. One of the others is we've made the markers move back further from the thrower. So we've increased the distance the marker needs to be from the thrower, pretty much by disc width.
So it's a double disc width? How do you measure that now? You can't push
not for
off.
disc space, but for wrapping and for straddle. So it used to be the line between your arms. It couldn't cross the torso. But now it's a line between your arms, can't come within a disc width of your torso. So you've got extra space.
A disc width of the torso on a straddle or a wrap.
Well, for the straddle, it's of your feet. So if you imagine there's a disc at your feet, a line between the marker's feet can't cross that disc. It's got to be a disc width away from your pivot foot.
That is okay. I think
further back. Just get further back.
A bit more space. I think it's tough. It sounds like it's a little bit tougher to measure. I always used to like the get out of here. Like
that's still there. The get out of there is still there. That still exists. Disc space around around the gut, and it helps if you've got a bigger gut like us. Maybe to push
hey, speak for yourself. No.
But it's to do with the arms and the feet. But again, that's to match a USA rule, and we hope that means there is fewer instances of thrower marker fouls. We'll just see the game continue. And to be honest, like as a good thrower, if someone's right close to you, just go, oh, well, this is going to be easy to break them now because they're so close. To make them go back a bit is not actually necessarily easier for the thrower, but it will mean there's fewer chances to have that contact that will cause a foul and therefore have stoppages. No one wants stoppages. So.
No, let's get rid of those stoppages, keep the play moving. So, Kat, before Ruben goes on, how has your team kind of discussed the rule changes, or has training been have you adapted new drills or anything, or have you just kind of read and accepted and understood?
No. So Anson is our coach again this season, and he loves rules. So we actually did a drill on the wrapping and the straddling rule and like the 45 degrees. So yeah, that actually was the thing that we did a lot over a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Nice. And do you think in an attacking sense, play or planning has evolved because of the traveling deviation?
To be honest, I don't think. I think a lot of us really love that rule. Like, I think me especially, I was really happy to see that actually happened. So I don't think we needed
just for you.
The Cat Smith rule.
I know, I love that rule. But yeah, I don't think we needed to practice that anymore. I think we'll take to that. So.
You just kept doing what you used to do was illegal, and now it's legal. Yeah, okay.
Beautiful. Anything else, Ruben? Any other significant rule changes?
There's probably 2 others that are worth a mention, and that's the penalties for offside. We've changed, and that caused a bit of controversy. I think it was the final of Div 2 Nationals, the men's final, maybe 4 years ago. The double game point, I think, had an offside that caused the penalty. We've changed the way the penalties for offside work though now, and that is that there's no longer a repull. If you go offside, there's automatically something will happen, but it's always, we just treat it like it's a brick. So it's basically just the defense has done a bad pull, and so the offense can just take it to the brick and start play from there. So obviously if they do a really bad pull, you just don't bother calling offside, but if they've gone offside, you can call offside. Don't catch it if you call offside. That's my big tip for everybody out there. If you're calling offside, don't catch it, let it hit the ground, and then pick it up, walk to the brick mark, and away you go. Okay. And that's for no matter how many times they've gone offside. That's the way the rule applies now.
If you do catch it, you negate the offside. That's can't right. Take the brick. Okay.
No. And if you just like treat it like a brick, you wouldn't catch a disc if you were going to take it to the brick mark. You'd let it hit the ground, and so you're basically treating it like a brick. So that also means that if you drop it, that's still a turnover. So let it hit the ground if you're calling offside.
All right. I mean, I still feel like it's getting a little bit better, but since I've started playing, like, especially if you're not at Nationals, somebody's offside on every single pull. So I guess eventually something's got to be done to start twisting these screws and stop waiting for worlds and observers watching goal lines and
I mean,
us
look,
ultimate
I
players just got
understand.
to stop.
It's a really hard thing to stay behind a white line until someone throws a frisbee. Like, that's challenging. But I hope that people can think of it and work towards and realize that, you know, we should all be trying to follow the rules, and it's a pretty simple rule to follow. So just
I guess that all ties us all back to the spirit of it all. If we know we can do it, let's just do it. And I think you said you had 2 more, so that would leave us with one more
there's
remaining.
one last one, and that's more so a kind of a clarification, and one that, you know, in some instances it might have an impact, in others it'll be the same way that people used to play. But we've adjusted our wording around receiving fouls, and what we've kind of edged out a little area where there's not a receiving foul, in that if you get a block and then after you've gotten the block, you then hit the offense's hands, just their hands or their arms that are outstretched, then that's not considered to be a receiving foul. So it used to be a bit of a grey area whether that did qualify as a receiving foul or not, and now I've said quite clearly that if all you do is, as a defender, is contact their arms after you've gotten a block, that doesn't count as a receiving foul. Okay, obviously, if you hit their arms on the way through to the disc, that's going to still be a receiving foul. But you got the block, you just happen to hit their arms. That's not a receiving foul.
This is what used to fall into the categories of incidental contact, I suppose, or in and along those lines.
Yeah, but it was a bit. You know, there's also an important principle within Ultimate that you have an entitlement to your space, that someone shouldn't be allowed to. If you've got space, you shouldn't be impinged in that. But we said that, you know, you can't just put your arms out and then say, well, I claim that space as well. So It's more that you've got a right to your torso, to your body, but not to where your arms are, is pretty much what we're saying.
Okay, cool. That's a good good bit of insight. Thank you very much for the updates on all these rules. Now we're going to go back to some AUC talk, and we're going to start with Kat. But while we've got you, Ruben, we're making predictions. So I'm gonna put you to the pine here too, and make you pick some winners. But we'll start with Kat, and we'll start in the men's division. Kat, first, tell me who's going to be the champion. And then who's going to be the champion? Who's going to win the men's division?
I must admit, I came in at the end of Mark Evans, and I really like his idea of Fishwick. I reckon just to cause a bit of drama. I really like them to win.
Okay, so really Kat's going to stick her neck out and say Fishwick for the win. Ruben, for the win, before we talk about semi-finalists, who is going to be the outright champion in the men's division?
So I should put a caveat here that I'm going to be there, and I'm planning to be playing a game advisor role, potentially in the final. So I don't want to kind of sway of what I want to have happen or not happen.
Okay, but, good. Put the caveat out there, but I still want a team name.
I will say that from what I've seen, having not seen any other northern teams, but here in Victoria, that the Ellipsis men's team just looks they look really strong.
They've been a
whole bunch of really experienced players, but also like a whole raft of these just young athletic people running around, and they look really strong. So I'd expect them to be there, and I will impartially adjudicate and officiate regardless of what team.
We would expect nothing less than that impartiality out of you, Ruben. So good on you for still picking a team. Kat, who are going to be the semifinalists that Fishwick gets through? Who are the other 3 teams in that semifinal bracket?
I think Sunder will definitely be there.
Now, are we talking Sunder Slice, the Latamatos-led team, or are we talking Sunder Dice, the Evans-led team?
I never know every year. I just never know. I reckon it'll probably be a Sunder semi, right? That's usually how it happens.
Okay, so one of them gets the right to represent.
Yep, and it'll be Fishwick and, Ellipsis.
And Ellipsis. So, Ruben, do you see different semi-finalists than Kat?
Sunder, both Sunders will be there. That's fine. but I think Newcastle. I think Newcastle have a good shot, given that it's been quite an interrupted season. They've just got such a core. They know each other all so well, that team. I think they've got that advantage, that they've got that gel, those connections, and they know how to deliver. They've got the skills there. So I reckon they're going to make a semi as well.
I like it. I talked to Greeny yesterday, the young man of the sport, 52 years old, still going at it in Div 1. Also, Kat Phillips, I spoke to her, and she mentioned her affinity, what she likes about Newcastle, how they always show up with these small roster teams, sometimes as low as 10 to 12 to 14.
They won with 12, right?
Yeah, they won a national championship with 12. So, and they seem to always have that kind of style about it. They don't select huge rosters, but as you say, they've got these super strong cores, and they get results. So, Kat, to the division that you're missing out on, of course, it would have been a Fuse championship this year.
Absolutely.
Of course.
This was our year, the 20-year plan.
And you know what? I must say, there a few of my interviews have mentioned the expectations for the Fuse improvement to be showing this year. So not just me being over flattering to you, but it seems like the word on the street was that Fuse was seemingly legit this year, but without them, because that is the case now. How's it gonna go? Let's start the same way. So who's gonna be the champion?
I think Ellipsis will probably take it out again.
Okay, it doesn't seem like anybody's stretching too far out on a limb with that one. Ruben, are you going to agree?
Look, it's hard to say that they're not. I got to play against them down in Balan earlier this year. I'm playing with Fat Chili, and they came and joined in and played against the men in that game and that tournament, and that they still look really strong across the board. So
yeah,
dot.
4-time champions. Hey, can either of you tell me about now I should have asked this to Kat Phillips perhaps, but maybe either of you know, the dots are cut up. It looks like there's letters in there. IDEC. Is that what I see? And are you allowed to share your insights on what those 3 dots represent, or do you have insights, either of you?
I think I know, but Ruben, you probably know more.
I know, but I'm not sure if it's
shareable information.
So, I don't want to hear to millions of people. I think it's unfair for me to reveal that. But I guess I could say that. I don't even care if people find out. So
okay, well then I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I kind of thought we were there, but we'll never know until we speak with somebody from Ellipsis. Until then, okay, so Ellipsis 4-time national champions. I was still in Australia for their very first one. I had the pleasure of commentating that, and they've done nothing but win since. So we will say, okay, Ellipsis are looking good to win it. Who are they going to beat in the final, Kat, and who are the semifinalists as well? Give me the other 3.
I think it's going to be some really exciting plays. Like I know I keep coming back to Canberra, but like the likes of Abby Dawson and Caitlin Grange, like I don't know how they do some of the stuff that they do. Like I think that'll be pretty good. I think Rogue picked up Kaya Weir after we couldn't take her anymore. So Kaya Weir in herself is going to be incredible, along the likes with some of the other Rogue players. And obviously Manly, this hugely strong, impressive team that just keeps doing amazing stuff. So I think it's going to be those 4.
And who will get so Manly, Factory, and Rogue, and which one will get to feature against Ellipsis in a final?
I think the experience and the I don't know. This is getting a bit corny, but I think like the heart of Manly, or maybe the fire of Manly, will get through in the end with the experience.
Nothing corny about it, Kat. I love it. That's all we can take for our sports predictions. We know the players. We don't have stats or any of that stuff yet. We just know what we know, and
knocking on the doorstep, hey Steph.
Yeah, if that's what you feel, that's how it's going to unfold. Ruben, so Ellipsis, you like. Rogue, Factory, and Manly, are they going to be the same 3? Do you have a little bit of deviation in what you think?
I think that's the top four, but I think a slight deviation. I can just picture in the semi-final that there's going to be a Liz Eady telegraphed hammer that's going to work perfectly as it always does, because it's Liz Eady, no mistake, one mistake, Eady, and she's going to win the semi-final for them, and they're going to be in the final, but they won't have enough to take down Ellipsis.
And Liz Eady's back in Canberra, is that right? Factory.
Yeah.
Okay, so Liz Eady one mistake. Liz one mistake Eady.
She was no mistake Eady, and then she became one mistake Eady, and that's where Boo Boo got his nickname from.
That's Chris Stevens, Boo Boo.
Yeah, he was the one mistake.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Classic. I did not know that either. It's great insights, Ruben Berg. Thank you guys so much. I think we're going to wrap things up with your predictions here. Kat Smith, thank you very much for joining us from Brisbane. Our commiserations that you don't get to play in this final, but an absolute pleasure to have your face and your voice on here. I hope you have a wonderful day. And again, thanks for sharing.
No worries. Thank you for asking me.
You're so welcome. And Ruben, the same. This worked out to be a nice little show with the both of you on, but thanks for your willingness to jump in, even your keenness. You're as a spectator, you're kind of giving us some prompts, and we're like, we should just get Ruben on here and get in his brain. So thank you as well, Ruben, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And to all of our viewers and spectators, the millions out there, thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank Devortel Production for helping out and producing, not helping out, for doing all the production here. To Ulti.TV for the broadcasting and distribution of Australian Ultimate and now Global Ultimate. For more than 10 years, they've been doing it. Subscribe, become a member, like on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, all those things. I've been Stef Pazzo. I've had a heck of a time with these two guests. Thank you all for joining us. Be good and don't do anything I wouldn't do.
See you, Stef.